Good afternoon, everyone, and you're all very welcome to the Planning Committee here today, meeting in the Council Chamber, Strabane Road, Derry City Strabane District Council offices, obviously. And so I will start with items 1 and 2 together, which of course are the notice and summons of meeting and members' attendance. So, Suzanne, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. You are hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Planning Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Strabane, on Wednesday, the 3rd of December 2025 at 2 p.m. Attendance: Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Alderman Neri McMorris has advised she's going to be late. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Online, Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Shot.
Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Shot.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Shot.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Shot.
Councillor Patricia Loke. She's online. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley. Councillor Martin Riley.
Sorry, it's Patricia Loke here. I was just getting a cup of coffee there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. Councillor Martin Riley is online.
Looks online now.
And Councillor Lillian Senoy Barr.
She is coming in the door.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, members, we'll just move to the broadcast statement, item number 3. I'd like to remind everybody present at this meeting in the chamber or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are, of course, reminded to only have your microphones and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. And as is normal, a copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website, www.derrystrabane.com. Moving on to item number 4, members.
Just want to, and Shaw, just want to note my attendance. Councillor Fleming.
Sorry, Councillor Fleming. As is usual with me, I don't hang about, as you know. So my apologies to you. So I'm going to move now to declarations of members' interest at item number 4. So are there any declarations of interest in relation to today's business, Councillor Devine?
Chair, in relation to Appendix 2, LA 11 2021 0596F, I have been contacted about this application and have had conversations about it, so I'm going to declare an interest and will step out of the room.
Thank you, Councillor Devine, of course. Anyone else? Anybody online? Nobody else in the room I can see anyway. No one online with a declaration. Oh, sorry, declaration of interest. Alderman Montgomery, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's application LA 11 2021/0596/F, just the usual declaration of being on the board of the Locks Agency.
Thank you, Alderman Montgomery. And so that shouldn't prevent you from being involved in the decision-making process, of course, as we've already discovered. Okay, members, moving on to chairperson's business. I have one that I'm going to raise, and it's really only just to seek an update from the head of planning in relation to the situation pertaining to the ongoing works, potential works, etc., on Pump Street and the building that we all know to be the former convent of Mercy. So I'm going to pass that over to the head of planning, and then if anybody else has any further questions, of course, I'll take them. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Members, just as an update, obviously we received the list of building application and just at the middle of October. We did get initial comments from Historic Environment Division, which were mainly seeking more information in terms of the stabilisation works and the further information in terms of the rebuilding. We have put that back to the agent, and we have got a response on that just yesterday that they are going to look at that for us. We had received no response until yesterday. They're assessing their options as well going forward in terms of the wider scheme. So we would hopefully get more feedback from the agent within the next week or so, and if not, we'll be making contact in terms of trying to progress the matters.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, that certainly gives me some degree of an answer. Does anyone else have any queries in relation to that information for now? I think it's something that's just going to progress at the speed that it progresses at, it's fair to say. So I'm sure, Suzanne, you'll let us all know whenever the process moves on. Okay, thanks for that information, Suzanne. Okay, members, I'm going to move over to Suzanne once again then to take us through the lead items, etc. And then I will give you the running order and we'll move on from there, okay? After you, Suzanne.
So members, we've received lead information in relation to 3 cases today. Item number 1, LA 11 2025 0179F. We have received an email from Mr. Ty to Rosemary McManamon, and we have received an email from Aaron Donaldson with 2 attachments on behalf of the project team. In terms of item number 2, we have received our LA 11 2021 0596. We have received a request for deferral from John Roche Solicitor on behalf of John Gallagher, received on the 1st to 12th. We have also received a letter of support from Daniel McCrossan MLA, dated the 1st of December in respect to that application. And the final piece of lead information is in relation to LA 11 2024 0722F, and we've received an email from Maureen Moriarty on behalf of the Gateway Residents Group in relation to the HMO position.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, members. I'm going to actually request, has everybody had the opportunity to read that lead information? I think it all came out in a fairly timely fashion, but if we need 5 minutes or so, we can do that. So I think Councillor St. Bauer, you're indicating you'd like to take a few minutes to have a look through it. Okay. Right. Well, we'll do that before we get to the actual application list then. But what I'm going to do now, members, is to give you the running order, which today we have withdrawn number 6. Yes, sorry. Yes. So, Suzanne, do you want to explain?
Yeah.
Yeah, in relation to item number 6, which is LA 11 2025-0484F, the change of use from a 3-bed dwelling to 3-bed HMO at 7 Phillip Street. After the report were published, members, we became aware of a technicality with the maps that have been submitted with the application. So we are getting revised maps, and those that one will come back to the planning committee in January.
Okay, thank you. All right, members, so the running order, and obviously Suzanne and I discussed that particular matter yesterday, so it will come in January. I don't see too much in the way of any potential delay in it. So the running order is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Chair. You referred to a late item there from the solicitor asking for a deferral on number 2. Was that it?
Well, we discussed that, but I neither Suzanne nor myself or the other senior planners saw anything particularly new in it, you know. So what you're looking at there is basically referencing quite a lot of what's already in your papers. Would that be fair to say, Suzanne, if you would have sort of enlightened us a little bit more?
Yes, we have considered the request within the letter. However, the report's been published since last Wednesday. We have considered the retail impact, all those other issues in terms of the parking and the traffic issues are all reasoned out within the report. Therefore, from an officer position, we'd see no merit in deferring the application today.
Councillor Gallagher?
Chair, I think that if we took an adjournment, I think we might be setting a precedent, you know, that every report that would come out, then if it wasn't in the favour of whatever, for or against or whatever, that everybody would request a deferral, you know, so we'd never get any business done, I think. That would be the reality of it, I think.
It's interesting you put it that way, because that was kind of my thinking on it too, Councillor Gallagher, you know. So, I mean, there was no great merit in what came, in my view, anyway, certainly, you know. But you're just going to have a look at it, of course. You've also had the opportunity to see it, but I think you're absolutely right. I do. So, members, we are content to proceed on that basis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 as our running order. Okay. I will give people 5 minutes to have a look at those late items again, but before I do that, we'll move to item number 6, which of course is, are there any matters arising from the open minutes of the committee, which was held on the 5th of November 2025?
Just for accuracy, Chair, my name's not down, and I think it's the first item. It's the one that we overturned. It's not down as voted. I'll put it on the chat exactly which one.
If you could, the sound quality is not great here, Patricia. So if you could,
I'll put it on the chat. Okay.
okay. Councillor Lowe, that's noted. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Thank you. Members, we'll take 5 minutes now then for people to further appraise themselves of the of those late items that came in, as seemed to be the indication. Most people that have the opportunity, but maybe 1 or 2 haven't. So we'll take 5 minutes and then we'll move on to the list of applications for decision. Okay. Okay, members, are we happy to proceed? Yes? Thank you very much. Okay, well, we'll move on then to the first applications and recommendations for decision, etc. So, as I said, the running order, part number 6 is just the same as it is in your packs. So we'll start with number 1, which is LA 11 2025 0179F. There are some speakers, I might as well let you know on that. It's a recommendation for approval, and it's an application from this council to this planning committee, our council to this planning committee. So without further ado, I think Andre is going to walk us through that one, Andre, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. This application is LA 11 2025 0179F, and the proposal is for renewal of LA 11 2018 0015F for public realm improvements comprising the realignment of Railway Street, Derry Road Junction, Abercorn Square, alterations to alignment of Market Street, alterations to existing on-street parking on Market Street, alterations to existing parking arrangements at Bridge Street, Main Street Junction, alterations to Butcher Street, Church Street Junction, resurfacing of existing footways with natural stone and concrete block paving, replacement of existing concrete curbs and with natural stone curbs, relocation of bus stop and taxi rank from Abercorn Square, upgrading of street furniture, replacement of existing toilet block and planting of semi-mature trees. And this is at lands at Railway Street, Derry Road, Castle Street, Abercorn Square, Butcher Street, Castle Place, Market Street, Bridge Street, and Dock Street in Strabane. And members, this application is before you for decision today, as the application is a major application and council is the applicant, and the recommendation from officers is to approve. So members, this slide is just the site location map with all the site area involved in the application outlined in red there. There has been one representation received during the processing of the application regarding works proposed at Railway Street. Members will also have read the late items received recently, both from the objector and the planning agents. Officers can confirm that the objector was notified of the application and has also been sent the information which was received from the project team on the 1st of December. So members, the following slides show the main parts of the proposed development. The images on the left show the existing situation and plans on the right show the proposed works. So this slide is the realignment of Railway Street, Derry Road Junction, and this results in a realignment of the traffic flows at this location. So the next slide is the removal of the pagoda building and the relocation of the bus stop and taxi rank. And this is a result of the creation of a new public space in Abercorn Square. So this slide shows alterations to Butcher Street, Church Street Junction, and the removal of the toilet block and additional planting of semi-mature trees. And this slide shows the relocation of the taxi rank from Abercorn Square and alterations to Market Street, which will provide for a new taxi rank. And this new taxi rank also results in the reconfiguration of the existing Market Street embankment with a provision of new retaining wall and resurfaced footpaths. And this slide just shows alterations at Main Street, Bridge Street to provide 25 parking spaces. And throughout the scheme, members, there will also be enhanced public realm works, including the resurfacing of existing footways with granite and block paving. And there is also proposed new seating and litter bins at various locations throughout the scheme. So with regards to the policy context and material considerations, members may recall a similar application was previously approved by the Planning Committee in September 2019. But this permission has now expired. This application has been assessed under the Council's Local Development Plan 2032, the plan strategy. Full policy consideration is detailed in the committee report, and it is considered that the application complies with the development plan. The following consultees were consulted on the application: NIEA, Natural Environment Division, Water Management Unit and Regulation Unit, DFI Roads, DFI Rivers, NIE Networks, Historic Environment Division, Foyle Carlingford and Irish Lights Commission, NI Water, Environmental Health Department, and I can advise all consultees have no objection subject to conditions and/or informatives, and therefore officers recommend the application is approved subject to the conditions as set out in the planning report. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Andre. Okay, members, we have a couple of speakers for you online, I'm assuming. They're online. We have Stuart Anderson and Erin Donaldson, who are both agents on behalf of the applicant. Can I check to see if you're both online? I can't see you. Stuart, Erin, are you there?
Good afternoon, Chair. Can you hear us?
I certainly can, Erin. Yeah, if you want.
Apologies. Technology. Thank you, Chair.
We're well used to the technology by this stage. Look, you've got 5 minutes if you indeed feel that you require 5 minutes, Erin. So whenever you want to take it away, go for it.
Yes, Chair. Just to clarify, we've actually secured speaking rights today myself. So I'm planning agent, and Stuart Anderson is with me, who's our landscape architect. We've secured speaking rights really more just to provide any clarifications or answer any queries that haven't maybe already been addressed by the planning team. So I suppose we weren't intending to speak in any detail, but just to say that we're here should you have any queries that you'd like to direct to us yourselves directly, if that's okay.
That's fine. Appreciate your attendance, both of you. So you all heard that. Has anybody got any questions that they want to put to the two people who are online, Stuart and Erin? Any questions for them? You'll be delighted to know, Erin and Stuart, that there are no questions for you. So they must have all the answers already. So we will move on. Members, any questions for the officer team, Andre, or anyone else in relation to the application? And if not, if there are no questions, Councillor Gallagher?
No, I don't have any questions. Chair, thank you for letting me in. Thank you for the report. And Chair, it's well noted that this was approved previously. One thing or another, wrong with the Piquawi funding, whatever, but all the ducks are lined up as such. And in fact, there's been a lot of preparation work that's been going on this lifetime with wrapping up footpaths and all. And we do see in the past, a lot of work that gets approved and it gets done, and then 6 months later they come and wrap it up again and lay down line. So it was very positive to see that there was forward planning and forward work happening on this. So based on all that, I would like to make a proposal to go with that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. I will take a seconder, Councillor Leonard.
Carrick, thank you, Chair. As I'd also like to welcome this proposal, and I think Saban's well overdue. I know I'm an adopted Saban person, but I think the development and improvement in the town is very, very welcome. And I'm sure this work, from what I can see here, will make the town more attractive, and I hope will bring more investment into the town. I would be very happy to second this as well, but I would just ask that as the works progress, that there's regular communications with traders in the town, to members of the public, both visitors to the area and people that live about Saban, and that contractors do review the traffic control arrangements as time progresses. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I think that's important too, that level of communication continues and into the future of the development of the planned program of works, etc. You know, so I completely agree with you. I'm sure we all do. Okay, so we have a proposal from Councillor Gallagher, seconded by yourself, Councillor Leonard. Member, I'm going to put this straight to the vote. Okay, so, Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is vote to accept the officer recommendation to approve LA 11 2025-0179F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Or Suzanne.
Alderman Eric Morris not here. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
Or
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tam.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Conor Heaney. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Or.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For Suzanne.
Councillor Lillian Senior-Barr. For. Okay, it's unanimous.
okay, that's unanimous, members. All that remains for me to do is to thank Erin and Stuart for taking the time to join us. And of course, you're now free to go about your whatever other business you've got arranged for the rest of the day. So thanks a million, both of you. You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, which is LA 11 2021-0596F. Again, recommendation for approval for the erection of a replacement retail unit at Strabane Road, Newton Stewart. We do have some speakers for that as well, members, but before all of that, I'm going to pass it over to Laura for the officer report. So Laura, whenever you're ready.
Apologies, members. So application LA 11 2021-0596F. This is an application for the erection of a replacement retail unit, which includes a cafe/deli with seating area, ATM, a petrol filling station with a canopy and car parking. It's located at Hamilton Spire, which is at 15 Strabane Road. And the lands adjacent to in the west of that in Newton Stewart, and the recommendation is to approve. So here we have the application site as outlined there by the red line, which you can see in the site location plan and the aerial overview. So the proposed development encompasses a larger site than which exists at present and takes in the adjoining lands to the west of the existing shop. So there is, just in terms of the context of the site, there's a 2-story detached listed dwelling adjacent to the site at 21 Strabane Road. And then immediately adjacent to the other side, there is a small detached bungalow, which is 12A Strabane Road. And opposite the site there, we have a number of housing developments. So here, this is some images of the existing premises. So the existing shop is located in the eastern portion of the site. As you can see there, it's a single-story building finished with brown brick and render. Adjacent to and west of the shop, there's a number of small storage containers which are used as part of the shop premises. There's hard standing there to the front of the shop, which is open to the road and is used at the minute for access and parking. In recent years, this is the extended gravel area, which is used as parking area and a vehicular access at the western end. This is the western portion of the application site within the red line. It's a grassed area which slopes upwards towards the row of conifer trees there on the left-hand side of the image. Along the road side here, we have the boundary is defined by a timber-style ranch fence. There's also an open water course to the western side of the existing shop building, which appears to be culverted under the shop and flows away from the site to the field at the rear. Again, here's some more images just of the site at present. So the northern boundary here with the adjoining field is defined by a post and wire fence with some small hedges and trees. And the application site also takes in a small triangular portion of the field to the rear, which falls away to the north, and that's just the image there at the bottom of the slide. So in terms of the policy consideration, which is set out in detail in the planning report, we have the regional development strategy, the SPPS, the Derry City and Strabane District Council local development plan, and Strabane area plan in terms of the maps. And there's also a number of supplementary planning guidance documents which are set out in the planning report. There's been a number of consultees as a result of this proposal. Again, the consideration of the consultees is set out in the report, and their comments have all been considered. We have NIA, SES, Locks Agency, DFI Rivers, DFI Roads and NI Water, Environmental Health, and also HED. All the consultees are content with the information submitted and have provided conditions where relevant and have also provided advice. We've had a number of representations in relation to this planning application, 2 non-committal comments and 32 objections from 5 separate households. The issues raised are considered in detail in the planning report, but includes there, as outlined in the slide, the town centre boundary, the development limit, the impact on listed building, trees, road safety, potential flood risk, natural heritage and amenity. As you are also aware, we've had 2 late items, including 1 letter of objection and a letter of support, and officers are content, as Suzanne outlined, that we've considered any information submitted in those late representations, that nothing has been raised that hasn't been considered in the planning report. So this is the proposal that's before us. As you can see here, the proposed new replacement shop is located centrally within the application site. It includes a cafe or deli and some external seating area associated with that, plant and storage area, and a service area to the western side of the shop. It also includes a 2-bay petrol filling station with a canopy, and then parking is provided along the front of the site with a new access onto Strabane Road. So this is some images, elevations of the proposed development there. You can see the elevations from the Strabane Road and to the rear, and then there's some sections at the bottom of that slide through the site which shows how the development will sit on the site. So in terms of the site context and the constraints associated with this site, so the site's located predominantly within the development limit of Newton Stewart, which is designated as a local town. A small corner of the site extends beyond the development limit into the countryside. The western part of the site is zoned for housing. The site abuts the curtilage of a listed building. There's a main sewer crossing through the site, and a small portion of the site is located within the 1 in 100 year floodplain. And then the River Strill and Riverfoyle tributaries, SISAC, is approximately 180 metres north of the site. So in terms of consideration of this proposal and the retail development, in terms of establishing the principle of it, it's been assessed under policies RP1, RP4 and RP9 of the LDP. So policy RP1 is City Town Centre First. It requires council to adopt a town centre first approach for retail uses and applies sequential test to applications that are not within an existing centre. So in terms of this application, the site is as detailed in the Strabane area plan. It's located within the centre. So the Strabane area plan refers to a town centre. And paragraph 8.12 describes retailing and general commercial activity as being concentrated along Main Street, the northern end of St Eugene Street and the eastern end of Town Hall Street. However, the town centre and the Strabane area plan is not delineated on the map, the settlement map associated with Newton Stewart, like it is for example, Strabane or Castledairg. And as such, then the application site is considered to be within the centre. The development isn't proposing to introduce a new retail use at this location. There's planning history on the site for retail use dating back to the early 1970s. There was also a petrol filling station at the site. So officers have considered all of this, and given the location, scale, and nature of the proposal for a replacement of an established retail use at an existing commercial site within the centre, a sequential test is not considered necessary or applicable in this case. The proposals are not considered to have a significant adverse impact on the vitality and viability of the existing centre due to the scale, nature, and the long-established retail use on the site. So the officers consider that the proposal is in compliance with policy RP1. So there, in terms of policy RP4, which is all our town and district centres, so this policy assesses proposals for retail development within a local town centre or in sites which adjoin the boundary of a town centre. Again, this application site is considered to be located within the centre. Officers consider that the scale of the development and the improved quality of retail offer will enhance local shopping provision within Newton Stewart and will not have significant adverse impacts on the vitality and viability of Newton Stewart or significantly divert trade from all our centres such as Derry or Strabane or Castledairg. The replacement shop increases the retail floor area of the existing shop from 305 to 645 square metres. It continues to sell convenience goods for local households. It is a double of the existing sales area, but still considered to be a modest sized shop. And the information provided by the planning agent demonstrates that there's a need for expansion. It's noted that they have stated that the trade at the shop has increased by 20% since COVID, and that the shop is currently over-trading. Therefore, the larger store is required to accommodate this. There are considerations in RP4, so the scale and the type of retail development is in keeping with the established retail use of the site, and it's considered compatible with the immediate surrounding area and the character and the function of the town centre. And also, as assessed previously, the replacement shop with a new cafe, deli and filling station will bring additional footfall to the area and as a consequence, the central part of the town. So the proposal complies with the 3 criteria set out A, B and C there in policy RP4. In terms of RP9, so this policy wouldn't be strictly applicable to the proposal as application sites considered to be located within a centre. However, it's been assessed for completeness and in terms of the objections that have been raised. So as stated, the area plan doesn't define a town centre. There is also a range of retail and commercial businesses along Strabane Road. The development's not considered to be in an out-of-centre location. The applicant, again, has provided a proportionate assessment of need for the expansion and the modernisation of the premises. Consideration and weight is afforded to the plan history of the site as well. It's clearly an established retail use at the location. And the retail impact of the development is considered acceptable in this context and will not have a significant adverse impact on the current retail provision within Newton Stewart. Therefore, in terms of the retailing policies as set out within the LDP, officers are content that the proposal complies with those policies. As I mentioned previously, the application site is located within a portion of zoned housing land. As you can see there, that's shaded brown on the drawing. So clearly, this proposal doesn't intend to provide any type of housing. But officers note that there is a significant volume of zoned housing land within Newton Stewart that remains undeveloped. And the LDP indicates that, that Newton Stewart would require approximately 128 houses for the planned period and has capacity for 519, which includes existing housing zoning. So officers consider that the development of this site for the expansion of this use, when considered on its individual merits, is acceptable in this instance and wouldn't be prejudicial to the overall housing supply for Newton Stewart. Also, in terms there of the development limit, So whilst the application site is located predominantly within the development limit of Newton Stewart, a small corner there at the northern site boundary falls outside the development limits and therefore is within the countryside. You can see there on the drawing it's highlighted in yellow. So therefore policy ODC 1 of the LDP would also apply. This section is approximately 340 square meters, which represents 6.3% of the overall site, which officers consider to be a minor incursion of the development limit in this instance. Again, the applicant has demonstrated there's a qualitative local need for a larger shop premises at this location. And they have also pointed out that they want it's necessary and they want to retain the existing shop premises whilst developing the site. To ensure continuity of service, retail service. So this is to an extent dictated the layout of the overall site, which has also resulted in a small incursion outside of the development limit. However, overall, officers consider this to be on balance acceptable. So then we've considered the proposal in terms of the design, character and the appearance that the proposal will have in the overall area. And there's a number of policies there as outlined under which design, character and the appearance is considered. It's considered the design of the building, the forecourt, canopy and the retaining walls are acceptable in the context of the surrounding area, including the listed building. It's 21 Strabane Road. It wouldn't be out of keeping with the character of the area where there's a mix of uses. The proposed development won't impact visually on the amenity character of the surrounding countryside or area of high landscape importance and wouldn't mar the distinction between the settlement and adjoining countryside. Additional landscaping is proposed where the site bounds the rural area to minimise the views there from the A5. However, it is noted that these are generally longer range views as well. The other criteria under which the application is assessed in terms of residential amenity, environmental health have been consulted. They have no objections subject to conditions. It's not considered that there be any adverse impacts on amenity of the surrounding residential properties. In terms of access to the site, there's some upgrades proposed there in terms of a right-hand turning lane and improved crossing island. There's additional car parking proposed, a loading bay, and also the proposal's been designed to improve accessibility to the site. So officers are content that the proposal complies with the relevant policies in terms of access to the site, and DFI roads are content now with the proposal as it stands and do not have any objections. All our considerations include waste planning, contaminated land, hazardous substances and sewage and surface water disposal. Officers have considered all these and set out in detail in the report. We have no objections and the consultees have no objections subject to standard conditions. In terms of the natural environment, there is the replacement and extension of a culvert, which has been considered by NAA and SES. There's a stamp which has been provided, which details pollution prevention measures. In terms of priority habitats, protected species, and protected sites, a number of reports have been submitted in that respect. Officers and the relevant consultees have considered these and they are now content with the proposals and have provided conditions. And they're just in terms of renewable energy, design proposals have been made to include that within the application, so the proposal is compliant in that respect. So overall, just to summarise, this application is for the redevelopment expansion of an existing established retail premises. Scale and nature of the expansion are considered likely to have a significant adverse impact on the vitality and viability of the central part of Newton Stewart or any other town or city centre. The additional retail provision will improve the quality of retail offer in Newton Stewart and will not have a significant adverse impact on the current retail provision within Newton Stewart. The proposal will provide a safe and improved access and parking provision. The proposal will not adversely affect any protected species, priority habitats or protected sites. The proposal will not adversely affect amenity or human health, and it will not result in or exacerbate flood risk at the site. So therefore, having considered all the material considerations, the development plan and policies, and the plan history, the consultations and the representations approval is recommended subject to conditions. Just to note there in terms of the conditions regarding the access to the site, officers have considered those further, and we will be proposing potentially an additional condition regarding the timing of the access improvements to ensure the works are carried out to improve the road safety at the site. But officers are content, if members are content, to agree that condition with the planning agent before we would attach it to any decision. Therefore, overall, their recommendation is to approve, members. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Very comprehensive report and summary at the end. Thank you very much. Members, there are some speakers who wish to address the committee, so we'll move to that. And the first speakers I would wish to welcome here are Una Given, who's the agent, and Charlie Hamilton, who is the objector. Are we doing it the other way around?
Objectors first.
I'm sorry, I'm going to, hang on, sorry, folks. Before you move, my paperwork was giving me the wrong information. So we have an objector first as well. So we have to hear from the objector first. So that objector is John Gallagher. John, I believe you're online. Is that correct?
Thank you. That's correct. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. John, you're very welcome. We will give you 5 minutes to address the committee, and then, as you'll probably have understood, we will then, of course, hear from the agent and the applicant after you've outlined your objection issues. So, John, if you wish to start, we'll give you 5 minutes, and the committee clerk will let you know whenever that 5 minutes is up. Okay.
Okay. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here, Mr. Chair and members. My name is John Gallagher. I'm a long-standing convenience shop and businessman in the middle of Newton Stewart. Let me stress that I am not anti-Hamiltons. They're part of the town, but this proposal has to be judged by council's own plans and policies, and not just on who we like. So let's start with the basics. Where is the town centre? Your council retail study and the occupancy study both say the same thing. Newton Stewart Town Centre is the tight cluster of shops on Main Street, St Eugene Street, Town Hall Street and Castlebrae, the bit people rock around. Your plan strategy echoes that and calls it the central area. So the town centre is not vague. It is already defined in your own evidence and strategy. The Spar site is down the hill on Strabane Road with its own forecourt and car park. It is not in the town core. It's an edge of centre or out of centre site. What's in front of you is not just a tidy up of the wee forecourt shop. It's a much bigger store with a cafe and deli, off-licence, fuel and a big car park, set up to pull in car-dependent shoppers. That's classic edge of centre supermarket behaviour. You drive in, fill up, do the big top-up shop and drive out again, instead of parking once and walking around a few shops on Main Street. Policy RP9 and retail and town centres planning guidance are clear. If retail floor space is 1,000 square metres gross or more, and it's not in a town centre, you expect a retail impact assessment and an assessment of need. The applicant's old plans put the gross building at around 1,063 square metres, once you include cafe and back of house works. The officer report gets around that by shaving bits off, talking about a smaller retail element, and then saying no retail impact assessment is needed. With respect, that's not what the policy or supplementary planning guidance say. The 1,000 square metre test is on a gross floor space, not a cut-down sales figure that suits the argument. On a straight reading of your policy, the scheme does hit the retail impact assessment trigger. Local traders have commissioned a technical retail impact evidence note using a 5-minute drive time method. The numbers are quite simple. Around £4.7 million a year in convenience spend is available within 5 minutes of the Spar site. At normal sales levels for a store this size, the new Spar can take that whole pot or more. So for it to hit its targets, it has to drag away trade from Main Street and the other core streets and intercept rural shoppers coming in from Archstraw and the A5 as well. That's exactly the sort of impact RP9 and the SPG say should be tested properly. We've put that evidence in front of you. The applicant, who is over the 1,000 metre gross threshold, still hasn't given you the formal retail impact assessment your policy expects. Your plan strategy and your rural needs duty both talk about keeping small towns like Newton Stewart alive and making sure services are there for people who don't drive. If you let a big edge of centre one-stop grow without proper checks, you risk hollowing out the very streets your own documents call the town centre. What I'm asking you to do is not to punish Hamiltons. I'm asking you to follow your own rules. Given the scale, format, and edge of centre location, I'm asking you to defer this today and require an applicant-led retail impact assessment and need analysts under policy RP9 and the SPG. Or if they don't do that, refuse it as being against the town centre first approaches in RP1, RP4 and RP9. That's fair, policy compliant and gives Newton Stewart's town centre the protection your own plan says it should have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Please do stay with us. Members, obviously you've heard Mr. Gallagher. Has anybody got any questions for Mr. Gallagher in relation to his opinions on this one? Okay, Mr. Gallagher, if you just like to sit tight, no one has any questions for you. So I was somewhat premature, so my apologies to the applicant and agent, but I will now, of course, invite you both to come forward. That's Una Given, the agent, and Charlie Hamilton, the applicant. So I will just give you a minute or two to get into your seats. Una, Charlie, you're both very welcome. I'll give you a minute to get yourself settled there, but thanks for coming along today to address the committee. Again, the rules are the same for yourself, if we can call them that, and that is you've got 5 minutes to address the committee. So, and I'm assuming that's going to be your job. So whenever you're ready. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Una Given and I am the agent for the applicant in this case. And I'd just like to take the time to thank members and the planning department for allowing us the opportunity to make this presentation. This application was submitted over 4 years ago, and there's been a lot of work in that time, both from the applicant's team, but also from the planning team as well, from Alana and Laura and their colleagues. So obviously we very much welcome this decision to, or the recommendation to approve. There's been a shop on this site for about 40 years, and it's at the point now where it needs to physically expand because it is presently over trading, and it also needs to modernise in order to respond to modern customer requirements. At the start of the COVID pandemic, the Newton Stewart Spar saw an increase in custom. The additional customers that came to the shop included customers coming to it to do their main shop, as opposed to going to the larger supermarkets such as Asda's in Omagh and Strabane. The use of the existing shop over that period made customers more aware of all that it had to offer. But whilst it has a comprehensive range of products and goods, it presently cannot compare with the larger supermarkets in terms of range and variety and options for customer choice. So in order to retain its existing customers, it must expand. So the proposal will make an alternative to making a trip to the likes of Omagh or Strabane for the larger shop. And in that respect, it will not compete with other retailers in Newton Stewart, but it will attract the leakage of custom that might have gone from the town to the larger chain stores such as Lidl and Asda. outside of the local area. In 2020, because of the growing activity at the shop, Mr. Hamilton provided a car park next to the existing shop and additional space for storage. It's quite clear from what you see on the ground that over the years, the business has actually outgrown its premises in an unplanned fashion. There is an ongoing issue with car parking at the existing shop. Customers double park on the forecourt at the front of the shop, as well as on double parking on the lay-by on the Strabane Road. But all of these issues are dealt with comprehensively in the scheme before you. The formalised car parking will be an improvement on the haphazard car parking presently at the front of the site, and there'll be an improvement on road safety. The new building and site layout, along with substantive tree planting, will make for a quality commercial frontage and improve the existing public realm. I'd like to finish off by saying that the proposal has been found acceptable by all of the council's consultees, whose responses to the application not only have professional authority, but are also impartial. The proposal does not involve an additional retail establishment, but instead the redevelopment and expansion of an existing one. The use of the site for retail is long-standing, and redevelopment and modernisation of a business is to be expected from time to time in order to retain its existing customers and to keep business in the town generally. I'd like to respond to a few points that Mr. Gallagher made. There's a point I want to make on the town centre. Laura has went through that in some detail, but I want to make a point that in the plan strategy, there is a sentence in the plan strategy which discusses the three towns of Newton Stewart, Castlederg and Claudy. And it actually says that each of those towns effectively operate as a town centre. I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but there is a sentence to that effect. As for Mr. Gallagher saying that it reaches the trigger point for a retail assessment, the retail assessment is required where the retail element or a retail proposal exceeds 1,000 square metres gross floor space. But the gross floor space of the retail element of this proposal is actually less than 1,000 square metres. When you add everything together, including the cafe, it goes beyond the 1,000 square metres, but the cafe is not retail. And the policy does distinguish between retail, leisure and other town centre uses. And it's only retail that specifies.
Sorry, Ms. Given, if you could summarise your minutes, 5 minutes is almost.
Right, and so it's only literally there. It's only retail that triggers that 1,000 square metres gross, and the proposal will not take trade from the existing shops. It will contribute to Newton Stewart Town Centre and will help to retain Charlie's existing customers and maybe prevent people who might have otherwise gone to Lidl or Asda in the bigger towns. I'm over my time, so thank you.
No, you're okay. If you would like to turn your microphone off there, for now. Okay, members, does anybody have any questions for or indeed Charlie? I'm sure it would answer some. Go ahead, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Just a couple of points of clarification. I suppose it is in regards to the site, and you were touching on it there, and I think your time just ran out. I think Laura used a figure of 645 square metres in regards to the retail, the shop floor, I think it was then, and you're designating then from the information that you're looking at there that the shop area, and I take it that's incorporating the outside area, as that would be included within the 1,060 metres that Mr. Gallagher is referencing as well. You put your mic on.
Sorry about that. The total gross area of the whole building, including if we were to draw a line around the external walls, is just over 1,000 square hundred metres. I think it might be 1,036, something like that there. It is showing on actually the plans at the screen. Maybe any of the planners who have it in front of them, obviously I can't really see from here.
No, you're granted that. Sometimes that print can be quite difficult when you're zooming into it on the pack. And I mean, I know the pack's very detailed. There's 44 pages of stuff, and I have went through it there. But a couple of quick other points there in relation to it. I noticed there's an app. I take on board the point. It's 4.5 years there from looking at it there from this application has went in. I take on board as well in regards to fuel on the site. I know there's an application in the detail there. Was it an application in 73 for fuel storage or sorry, for fuel on that site? And would I be correct? If there are pumps then placed to that, and again it's modest, it's 2 petrol or 2 fuel pumps there, that would only have 2 then fuel suppliers in Newton Stewart on itself. I think it is then. I think there's only 1 currently, formerly Todd's. I think that is. So you know, I'm just thinking as that add an additional then potential, because obviously those that do drive, you do price around a wee bit to see the price of fuel where you're going to purchase, and if there's only maybe 1 currently in the town. But another question there in regards to it, I'm assuming then with the size of the site here, this will add additional employment.
Oh, yes.
Apologies.
At present, and if I'm wrong in this here, Charlie, will you correct me, but I understand at present there's 6 employed. There are 6 employed at the minute, isn't there? And the plans are for a further 6. Oh, sorry. Maybe if Charlie would like to answer that.
There's about 16 full-time and then about 12 or so part-time students, you know what I mean? That type of work. It's very hard to say many actual hours they're working, but on the petrol point of view, petrol, where is the retail future of petrol or fuel? Because electric cars and everything else, you know, it's going to be a very humble filling station point of view, because it's going to be very hard to justify it. You know, there's no big volume in Newton Stewart for fuel. You know, I had fuel many years ago in Newton Stewart, and I took it out because I just needed the parking, because I'm just too tight for space. And that's the only, you know what I mean? It's a service. Will I ever make money at it? That's a question, but it's a service, you know, and that's the thing about fuel. You know, but from a job creation point of view, well, first of all, the work we get in the new shop, that will guarantee sustain the job we have. And I would like to think that in time to come, that will grow. I mean, I'd like to think we can get 5 full-time and maybe 6 or 8 part-timers, and it will grow, like, you know what I mean? And as for, you know, Mr. Gallagher chatting about impact on the main street, I did a similar development in Castlederrick 5 years ago. And you can nearly argue the same situation, Main Street, the bottom of it, you know what I mean, where Main Street started and finished. But, you know, in the 5 years, we've been very successful in Castlederrick, but not at the detrimental of any of the retailers already in the town. They're still there. There's still good opposition. You know, and if we don't keep good retail in the town, it has to be mixed retail. You know, it has to be mixed. And like Newton Stewart's got a nice spread. They've got 2 good furniture stores. They've a good chemist. You know, and they have camps. They've got a standalone butcher. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the main street. But I honestly feel that if I can attract more people into the town, then it's a natural thing for them to do is go and spend money up the town. But my biggest worry would be is that if a better retail proposition starts within a vicinity, I could leak customers to them, because I don't have the range and the needs that the customers have nowadays for fresh food. Because many years ago, you could have went to Wellworths, if you remember long enough ago, and done a week's shopping. You physically can't not do a week's shopping today, you know, because of fresh food and dates. So you're looking at the convenience sector. That's why we've grown so strong, and that's where the real demand is. So it is.
Chair, I have 2 final points there, and there. Yeah, we won't keep them brief. And I do, just to be fair to Mr. Hamilton, I do note it's a modest fuel facility compared to the one in Castlederrick. I'm not saying that's outrageous, but it is modest. If the application was approved, I know there was mention of a 31st objection there. There's 30 or not objection, sorry, conditions, and you were mention of an additional one. You're content with the current conditions as they are laid out, and are you? If I write down that many notes and I don't know whatever. Chair, it'll probably do. If I mind on it, it'll come back, but I can't just mind what my last point was now, so it'll do that. Thank you.
That's no problem. Thanks. Thanks, Keith. I'm sure it'll come back at some point, but it might be too late. So anybody else, any questions for the applicant agent? None. Anybody online? Online either. Okay, so just you're welcome to sit tight as are for now. And did I come back to you there, Alderman? Go ahead.
No, the only thing I am now, I don't see as much detail in regards to it, but I do really take on board the issue of parking. There were double and triple parked there on the current site and onto the road. And when you have a standalone car park now with a separate X, you know, that's bound to increase the safety there in regards to that, because you know, sadly there was a man, it wasn't connected to your shop, but there was a man killed at the pedestrian cross or at the traffic island there a good number of years ago. So that there's a standalone car park and it's secured with an entrance, it will be a great improvement from what currently is. And I'm just concur with that point. Thank you.
Okay, not a question. It's more of an observation, really. I think you're probably right. You very likely are right in relation to that observation. Okay, anybody else? Okay, right. As I said, you're welcome to sit tight with you are for now. Does anybody have any questions for Laura or any of the officer team in relation to this application? Councillor Leonard.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have a few questions basically around that the process has been followed right, but also that there's going to be no harm done to Newton Stewart Town Centre, because that's what's the most important thing here. There's been a lot of council money invested into Newton Stewart in their regeneration, and it's important that we keep that very much in mind. But going back over some of the points that have already been raised, council documents, the regeneration framework, the Saban area plan, the update health check assessment does designate the town centre, or calls it focused on the core settlement, which includes Main Street, Town Hall Street, St Eugenius and Castlebrae Road. It is in council documents to say it's recorded, that's where the town centre is. Yeah, there's no line on the map, fair enough, but that's where it says it is. And so based on council's own evidence, this application site is not within the town centre. And it's actually on an edge of town or out of town, whatever you want to call it. And I do think that the sequential test should have been applied. It talks about in RP9 there that the council may request a retail impact assessment for developments below 1,000 metre, taking into account local circumstances, such as the size, role and function of nearby centres. My question is for a comment on the council documents. How was that considered in this report? Why was there not the opportunity to request a retail impact assessment? Because I do think if there was a retail impact assessment, it could allay the fears of traders. I'd also ask, I can't see it, but has DCAN 4 been considered in this? Is there still a live document for this LPP? And it refers to ancillary use which may impact on the 1,000 metre squared threshold. And if we look at the NI use classes 2015, it indicates retail is actually deli counters, food to go. And I'd like to ask if those things have been considered as well, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. So I'll afford you all the opportunity. Laura, do you want to go first, or yeah, in relation to the questions?
I'll just
whoever.
Yeah, I'll come in. Rosie's checking some of the other issues, Councillor Leonard, in terms of DCAN. Just in terms of the principal issue regarding the central area issue, right? We know we are very aware of other council documents that focus on those streets that are in the more centre of the town, yes, but the facts are that the town centre is not defined by a line on the map, okay, and there is ambiguity there. So we have looked at even you know, we've applied a sequential test in our assessment in terms of even if, as Laura was saying, even if we were taking this as edge of centre or whatever, we've applied issues such as, you know, would there be other sites available in the town centre that would accommodate this sort of style of shopping? I mean, essentially, this is local shopping provision. This is what this is, and the other issue, the other determinant factor here is the expansion of the long established existing retail use on site. Even if this was outside of any centre, okay, completely outside it, that would be a really significant material consideration that we would be taking forward. In terms of asking for a retail impact assessment, we have obviously, you know, we have toed and froed on various levels of detail. We do have an assessment of need that the agent has put in. The primary focus of a retail impact assessment is to actually illustrate what is the qualitative and quantitative requirement for retailing in the area. Okay, so it will look at what is the choice that consumers have at the moment, what are their preferences, where are they shopping, are they shopping in Asda, are they shopping in Strabane, are they shopping in Donegal, wherever, okay, Castlederg, and then look at, in terms of the quantitative, the data, you know, what are the various percentages, where is the trade, where would this divert trade from? Okay, we're very clear, and you know, even in the most basic assessment, what the agent has highlighted as well, this will divert some trade from Asda, it will divert some trade from Lidl, but that will not be significant to adversely impact those shops. And this will complement the existing shops already within Newton Stewart. This will help expand and grow local shopping. So I do appreciate, you know, we've had a number of meetings as well with MLAs on behalf of the objectors. We've gone over these issues. I appreciate the concerns. The ambiguity in the Strabane area plan does not help us. And going forward, as part of the local policies plan, we will be obviously drawing a line around the town centre. But that is the assessment we have made on fundamentally on the central area issue. Rosie is maybe hopefully had a look at the supplementary guidance. If you want to come in on that, Rosie.
Yes, I've just been looking up the DCAN. The DCAN references PPS 5, and PPS 5 was cancelled by the SPPS. So again, as Suzanne was saying, it references town centre boundaries, and Newton Stewart doesn't have the town centre boundary in this case.
Okay. We may well have a town centre boundary at some point, but we don't have one now at the minute, as I think we understand from the answers to the questions. Councillor Gallagher, you indicated you wanted to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm old enough to know Newton Stewart before the bypass, and I think and this shop here would have been the first port of call, you know, and it was on its natural boundary. But and that being said, the bypass probably done more damage to Newton Stewart than anything, for want of retail. But and looking at this project, it looks like modernisation of an existing and I think the likelihood is it will pull people off the bypass to come along. They will put in, they'll use this premise and go further on under town rather than reversing back out to get back on the bypass. I think it's a natural flow that will take you through the town. So I think the town centre, if you want to call it, the streets we're talking about, will get complemented and supported if this project goes ahead. So I think it's modernisation at its best.
Okay, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Leonard.
Chair, I would appreciate an opportunity to respond to.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I wasn't aware that you wanted on again, but go ahead,
well,
of course.
Usually you would ask. Yeah. With regards to the maps, like the conversation we've had, Suzanne, you know, it really is up in the air. It really is up in the air. And as I said earlier, why was a retail impact assessment not asked for, where it says it could be asked for? And the reason for that, I'm labouring that point, is because it could deter or allay concerns that other traders that all the traders may have. I just haven't got any response yet to my question about the NI use clauses, Order 2015. Is it just, as it says that retail includes deli counter, food to go, etc., which may impact on the 1,000 metre. The purpose of asking these questions is to making sure that Newton Stewart Town Centre is not being any harm being done to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody want to comment on that?
I'll just come back in. So in terms of asking for the retail impact assessment, we would ask for that if it's an out of centre proposal. Okay. So we as officers, we're of the view that this is not an out of centre proposal, but we have assessed the retail impact in accordance with the policies in the SPPS. Our policies in the LDP are based on the strategic plan and policy statement, which talks about the town centre first approach, and then that sequential approach, and then obviously ultimately that there's no significant adverse impact. Okay, so in terms of, so even just taking the whole floor space of the site, which is 1,067 square meters or something like that, we don't consider that this proposal is out of centre. That's why we haven't asked for a formal retail impact assessment. But in saying that, a proportionate assessment of need has been provided. An assessment of retail within the area has been provided by the agent. We have a technical assessment that has been provided by John Corey on behalf of the objector. We've looked at that, okay? And then our own expertise in terms of dealing with retail impact on both in centres and out of centres across the whole district council area, we've applied that as well. So I hope that helps address some concerns, Councillor Leonard.
Councillor Leonard, just in terms of the cafe element, it's stated in the use classes order that the sale of food and drink for consumption on the premises or hot food off the premises is sui generis use. So that places it outside class, use class A1, which is retailing.
I understand this from this class A1 includes the sale of cold food for consumption off the premises, for example, deli counter, sandwich counter, bakery, and food to go.
Well, in its entirety, those uses have all been considered. The sale, the retail sale of goods other than hot food is part of, excuse me, in a shop. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? If you want to come back
Thank
again?
you, Chair, for bearing with me there. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. That's what we're here for. To ask the questions, get the answers. Anybody else got any other questions for the officer team? No? Go ahead.
Yeah, it might be more a comment than anything else, but just, I suppose, some of us that would know there's been an ask in Newton Stewart for quite some time for car parking in the town centre, and I think this might be one of the elements there, and this particularly maybe in the points raised by Mr. Gallagher earlier. You know, additional car parking in the town centre to try to draw ones in would be one of the things there that's needed. It's getting the space for it, like anything else, but it's just a comment more than anything else. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's great. No, thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else got anything you want to ask the officer team? Councillor Jackson, you're kind of looking like you want to. So go ahead.
Because I actually don't feel that I've got the information that I need, you know, and that's the difficulty, because we know that there's like representatives from that area have been continuously highlighting the concerns around Newton Stewart. There's and it's unfortunate that Caroline's not able to be in the room, because she's one of the loudest voices in relation to the establishment of the Newton Stewart development framework, and the need for it, and then the need for support from our council to help shape and support local businesses that are currently operating within Newton Shirt. And this is an application from a local business operating within the Newton Shirt. And personally, from a personal perspective, I want to do what I can to support the local businesses, but I want the assurance and that whatever we're approving now isn't going to have a demonstrable impact on the existing retail offering within Newton Stewart. I don't have that assurance. I appreciate there's been some information being provided, but that assurance through the means of a retail impact assessment could allay everybody's fears in relation to this, but we just don't have it in front of us. And that's the frustrating element of this, because if the retail impact assessment was carried out and give us the facts, then we would be in a much more informed position to allay any of the concerns that have been raised. I just don't have it, and I'm not sure that we're going to get it within this sitting. No matter how many questions we ask, I don't believe we're going to have that qualitative data in front of us that that could allay the concerns. So I'm just, it's more out of frustration, and I know it's not a question within that. It's a comment more than anything. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Christopher. Well, it's not there, so you're not going to have it today. I mean, that's evident. But I suppose what we're trying to do here is we're trying to work on what the balance here is, and that's perhaps proven a little bit difficult for people. Before I move us on, is there any other questions that people might want to ask or observations they might want to make? If not, then, and I don't see any, so if not, members, obviously there is a recommendation in front of you for approval. I will take proposals now at this point for support for that or not. So I'll need a proposer and a seconder for that, or I'll need a proposer and a seconder for an alternative. Councillor Gallagher. You're proposing what? Go ahead.
Sorry, Chair. Apologies, my wee nod might have been too subtle there. Sorry about that.
I wanted to be on the record, Keith. That's all it is.
Sorry, Chair. I see the frustration that's raised, but in regards to the retail assessment, their report that members feel that is necessary, and I see the difficulty as well in regards to Newton Stewart Town Centre and that not being designated, or you know, the red lines around settlements and all the rest. And I've raised these issues before, but in light of what the planners have detailed and their response as to why this wasn't needed, due to they're not counting this development as outside of the town limit, outside an outside centre, I feel that there's enough in it. Yes, we all might like a bit more, but there's enough in it for me to propose that we accept the recommendations from the officers. Thank you, Chair.
Which is a recommendation to propose. Are you seconding that, Councillor Gallagher? Yes. Okay, so the recommendation and the seconder is Alderman Kerrigan, or sorry, the proposers, Alderman Kerrigan, seconded by Councillor Gallagher. Members, I think we've exhausted it, so we'll put it to the vote now. And Susanna, I'll welcome you to record that vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is a vote to accept the officer recommendation to approve LA 11 2021 0596F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Mary McMorris is not here. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine is abstained. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Neil.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Conor Heaney.
Neil.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Neil.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Neil.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
Against.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For Suzanne.
Councillor Lillian Sinai Barr.
For.
Well, thank you very much, folks. That's 6 for and 6 against. So I think we know what happens next. And that is that the chairperson of the planning committee will have the casting vote. And I will not be changing my vote. So therefore, I am for the application as well. And I thank those who came here today. Charlie, I wish you all the best with your business. You can see that this was a difficult one for members to work their way through. It was probably, well, you can see it was a close run thing. And that probably reflects quite a lot of what the concerns were in truth, you know. But as I said, on behalf of the committee, on behalf of the council as well, wish you well with it going forward. And if there's anything else that you require from our planners, I'd be more than expecting that they would be helpful. And again, to you, can I thank you for coming along. And again, also to John Gallagher. John, thank you very much for your contribution today. So, members, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. And I will do my best to honour all the citizens in Newton Stewart in the future. And I welcome everyone to the opening day. And I wish you all a happy Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
Thank you very much. And if we all come along to the opening day, you know, we'll be expecting some opening day special offers as well, you know. So good resisted. Okay, members. So the next application is number 3 on the list, which is LA 11 2024 0. What? I'm terribly sorry. I apologize to Caroline. Can somebody go and get her? Apologies, Caroline. I nearly rattled on without you there. Completely forgot you were in the rooms. I apologize for that. I'll let you get settled and then we'll move on to the next application, which of course is LA 11 2024 0550 F. Again, a full application. So recommendation for approval is for HMO at 2 Park Avenue, and Kieran Rogers is going to take us through this one. There are no speakers to it, members. So, Kieran, I think you're going to be a busy boy for a wee while now. So, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, members. This is item 3, LA 11 2024 0550 F for a change of use from a single family house to a house of multiple occupation for 4 bedrooms, and is located at 2 Park Avenue, and the recommendations to approve. This is just a site location plan, which is on the packs as well, showing the outline of the property at the end of a terrace. Again, then we have the property itself showing the front and rear elevations, rear turn, which won't be changing as a result of the application. All works are really, the applications for a change of use. And again, then we have the existing layout and proposed layout, which again doesn't change. It's got living room, kitchen, etc. on the ground floor, and then the upper 2 floors are the 4 bedrooms that are proposed for the change of use. In terms of policy, and this is the policies which it has been considered against, it's the regional development strategy, the planned Derry area plan, maps and zonings only, and then the Derry City and Strabane District Council local development plan strategy, which again we have our GD Poll 1 and 2, TAM 9 and HOW 4, 13 and 14, which are the main considerations in relation to this application. In terms of consultations, we had environmental health and DFI roads who both have raised no objections in relation to the proposal. And then we have the assessment in relation to the proposal again. The main policies again for considering a HMO are HOW 4, which the proposal meets as the development will not alter the status of the property as a dwelling and will retain the property for permanent occupation. In terms then of HOW 13, the states in the transitional period until the adoption of the local policies plan, the council will not permit more than 30% any houses within any street for further HMO development. In terms of Park Avenue, Grafton Street and Templemore Terrace, which have been counted for the purposes of this application, there's 35 properties, and that percentage of HMOs in relation to those properties is 22.8 at present. If this application was to be approved, this would take the percentage in that area to 25.7. It's therefore considered that the proposal would comply with Howe 13, as the introduction of HMO at this location wouldn't exceed the 30% threshold at this time. Then in terms of policy Howe 14, the proposal for a 4-bedroom HMO which doesn't exceed the 4-bedroom threshold. The internal floor space of the property is 88 square meters. However, the 150 square meter threshold relates to conversion to flat, so it's not applicable in this instance. The internal layout is suitable, and the HMO will not be wholly in the rear of the property without access to the public street, so it meets the 4th criteria. And then in terms of the number of HMOs in Mountjoy Street, Grafton Terrace and Templemore Terrace, it would take it to 25.7%. Therefore, it's considered the proposal would not detract from the established residential character of the area. The proposal has also been considered against transport and movement, and this relates specifically to TAM 9 and Criteria X of GD Pol 1. The proposal again is for a 4-bedroom HMO, which would have the same parking requirements as a 4-bedroom dwelling. Therefore, there'll be no concerns in relation to this aspect of it. The proposal has also been considered against design, amenity, human health, well-being, natural environment, built heritage, flood risk, main sewage services, and renewable and low carbon energy technologies set out in the paper provided to members. And then in terms of the application, then we've had 67 objections received in relation to the proposal, which have been set out in the paper to members. And I'll just go through just a few of them here and just highlight the issues raised. In terms of negative impact on community and character, that's raised in relation to the occupancy, which the council cannot control. There have been objections then or concerns raised in relation to parking. Again, that's been covered within the council's paper in front of members today, and that relates to TAM 9 in particular. The council are content that there will be no further parking issues as a result of the HMO proposed, as the parking requirements remain the same as the dwelling. Impacts on service, infrastructure, waste, environment and water. The unit proposed will be serviced by existing water infrastructure and waste management and existing bin collections in the area. So the onus then, if there are any issues, will be on the landlord and occupants to ensure that the collection of the waste generated from the property are managed appropriately. In any cases then where any issues arise, these can be reported to HD or the Northern Ireland Housing or HMO office in terms of licence and enforcement. And then they have raised noise, antisocial behaviour and disturbance. Again, the responsibility of this will be with the landlord to ensure there's a robust management procedures in place to ensure the occupants cause no noise or disturbance. And again, if issues do arise, these can be dealt with through the HMO licensing and environmental health department. Property values have been raised as well. Paragraph 2.3, the SPPS sets out the planning system does not exist to protect private interests of one person against the activities of another. The question is not who owns or occupies the property or will experience financial loss, but whether the amenity will be affected, which has been given consideration in the paper in front of members, and officers are content that the proposal as set out complies with the policies relevant to it. Lack of consultation has also been raised. Again, as part of the application process, there's been statutory neighbour notifications carried out in relation to the proposal, along with local press advertisement. So officers are content that the statutory requirements have been fulfilled in relation to that. There then have been concerns raised about overprovision of HMOs, Airbnbs and guest houses and unregistered HMOs in the area. All applications and submitted to council are considered no merits, and is considered this application meets the relevant policies applicable and the developments of this type. If there are any unauthorised uses such as HMOs in the area, these can be reported to council and will be investigated, or they can be reported to the HMO office as well, who would have powers. And then safety and security have also been raised. There's been no evidence submitted to support this assertion at this time. Again, it would be down to landlord's responsibility to ensure there's robust management plans in place to ensure that the occupants do not cause unreasonable disturbance in the area. And then officers then finally would just recommend approval with the attached conditions proposed as part of the paper given to members.
Thank you, Jim. Can I also note that Alderman McMorris has now joined us. She had actually indicated that she would be a little bit late, so you're very welcome joining us, Alderman, today. Okay. There are no speakers on this, members. Does anybody have any questions for Kieran or any of the rest of the officer team?
Sure, I put my name online for a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran, for the presentation. It's just, I suppose, a question. You mentioned in terms of conditions. In terms of the fact that this is a 4-bed application, can we just have clarity on, I suppose, 4-bed? Does that mean that we could put a condition on that it needs to be 4 people? Or is the stipulation only that it has to be a 4-bed? Because obviously there may be more people sharing a room in the HMO, and therefore the number of people who may be having cars or arriving and coming from the premises would be different. So it's a question of clarity in relation to the definition of 4-bedroom. Could we put a condition on, for example, that it would limit it to 4 people? Thanks.
In terms of occupation of the property, that would fall down to licensing with the Northern Ireland HMO office. They would look at the room sizes and then stipulate how many people could accommodate or could be accommodated in each room. In terms of ourselves, we can limit it at the minute to bedrooms as part of the policy, but again, it would fall down to the HMO office then to stipulate how many people could occupy.
Okay, you got that, Councillor Riley?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Okay, members, any other questions in relation to this one? Right, okay. There's a recommendation in front of you. You can all see what it is. It's a recommendation for approval. I will take proposals from the floor now, whenever you are ready, folks.
Chair, I want to get it online.
Go ahead, Councillor Heaney.
No, just thanks for the report and all that, but it's a corporate policy of this council that there should be a 10% limit on HMOs in these type areas. I know the current draft LDP is at 30, but it's a corporate position as councillor, it's 10. This particular street already exceeds that by some margin, and this would further bring it up to 25.7 as outlined by the officer. I would also have concerns about the parking issue also. Anyone that knows this area, and I know it well, it's an area of high congestion and regular traffic chaos, and where the applicant is expecting the side streets, which have their own parking requirements, to absorb any current parking. So for that reason, Chair, I'm proposing that we don't accept the recommendation and refuse the application.
Thank you, Councillor Heaney. So obviously that's a counter proposal to the recommendation. The proposal obviously is to overturn that recommendation. Anybody wish to second that? Councillor Jackson, you're going to second that. Before we go to the vote, I am quite shocked at the parking report in relation to this. I know this area extremely well. Most of us probably do, and it really is. It's probably one of the worst streets to try and drive up in our city and district, genuinely. But anyway, I don't want that to be something that sways everybody or swings everybody, but I'm entitled to have an opinion on these things as well. So I be honest with you, Kieran, very shocked at the very idea that you could have more parking on Park Avenue or Rosemount Avenue for that matter either. But anyway, look, we'll move it to the vote on the proposal. The proposal is to overturn the recommendation as proposed by Councillor Heaney and seconded by Councillor Jackson. So we'll just go straight to that, Suzanne.
Thank you. Okay, members, this is the vote for LA 11 2024-0550. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll abstain, Suzanne.
Alderman Neri McMorris. Sorry, Alderman McMorris.
Sorry. Andre, I'm not going to vote because I came in halfway through the presentation, so
Okay.
I'll abstain on this.
Thank you. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tap.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Tap.
Councillor Conor Heaney.
Tap.
Councillor Christopher Jackson,
Ta.
Councillor Fergal Leonard,
Ta.
Councillor Patricia Logue,
Or
Councillor Patrick Murphy, Councillor Martin Riley,
For.
and Councillor Zeno Barr.
For.
Okay, that's a proposal stands. That was 12 for and 2 abstentions as stated. Okay, members, I think we're about to take a break. Okay, so call it 10, 15 minutes. Okay, members, we'll move on to the next item, which is LA 11/2025/0171F, and again, recommendation for approval for HMO 12 York Street. Once again, no speakers, so we'll just hear from Kieran and put any questions that you might have or proposals, whatever. Kieran, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is item 4, this is LA 11/2025/0171, and this is for change use from a house and single family occupation to a house of multiple occupation for 4 bedrooms at 12 York Street, and the recommendations to approve. Again, we just have the site location plan showing the property itself outlined in red, and then we have the picture of the front of the property there. The proposed then existing and proposed layout. Then we have the existing layouts: living room, the ground floor, dining room, and kitchen, and then we have bedrooms 1, 2, and 3 on the upper floors. And then the proposed layout then is the living room on the ground floor will be turned into a bedroom, and the dining room will be a living room dining area, and then we'll have then the bedrooms, 3 bedrooms then remain on the upper floor. And this is just the policy context which it's been considered against. And again, the regional development strategy, the Derry area plan maps only, Derry City and Strabane Council local development plan strategy. Within that then is GD Pole 1 and 2, TAM 9 for car parking, and then for HMOs we have How 4, 13 and 14, and then this was considered again or as well against HE4 for listed buildings and their settings. In terms of consultees for this one, we had environmental health who raised no concerns, and then again historic environment division who had no comment to make as they considered the listed building to be sufficiently removed from the proposal, and there would be no effect upon it by the application if approved. Again, the application itself is for change of use. There's no external works proposed on it. Again, then we're under the main policy considerations, which is covered already as How 4, 13 and 14. The proposal complies with the requirements of policy How 4, as if approved, would not alter the status of the property as a dwelling and will retain the property for permanent occupation. In terms of How 13 then, during the transitional period, the council will not allow any more than 30% of housing on the street to be granted for further HMO development. Currently there's 14 properties in York Street, and there are currently none of them in use as a HMO. If approved, this application would take the total in this area to 7.1%, which complies with the requirements of How 13. In terms of policy How 14 then, the proposals for a 4-bedroom HMO does not exceed the 4-bedroom threshold, which satisfies that criteria. Again, we've got the internal floor space requirement. However, this is only applicable to conversion to flats, so it's not applied in this instance. The internal layout of the property will have a living room, kitchen, 2 showers, 4 bedrooms, and 2 WCs. So the HMO will be self-contained, so the 3rd criteria is met, and the HMO will be in the entire property, not located to the rear without access to the public street. So the 4th criteria is met, and then the proposal will take the number of HMOs in York Street to 7.1%. So therefore considered the proposal would not detract from the established residential character of the area, which meets the 5th criteria. In terms of transport and movement, the proposal is being considered against TAM 9 and policy GD Pole 1 criteria X. The proposal for a 4-bed HMO, which has a requirement of 2 parking spaces, which is the same as the existing dwelling. Therefore, the proposal complies with those policies. Other planning matters considered are design, amenity, human health and wellbeing, natural environment, built heritage, flood risk, main sewage, and renewable low carbon technology, which there's been no issues with. And in terms of the application itself, there's been 6 objections received to the proposal, and these have been set out in the report to councillors. I'll just cover them quickly as part of the presentation. In terms of parking, this has been considered, and as the use as a 4-bed HMO will have a requirement 2 spaces, which is the same as the existing dwelling. The proposal complies with the relevant policies in TAM 9, so there'll be no issue there. Issues in relation to impact on character, reduced sense of community, decline in conditions and potential price reductions. Type A occupants have transient tendencies and are not being managed. This has been considered, and the change of use of the proposal complies with How 13 would not detract from the established residential character of the area. In terms of turnover documents, this is not something that we can consider. And then in terms of value of the properties, this is again something that cannot be given material weight. In terms of waste management, environmental concerns, bin storage that have been raised, there's sufficient space within the site for refuge and bin storage, and there's regular council bin collections in the area to ensure rubbish won't be building up on the site. Environmental health have raised no concerns. If there's any issues in relation to these matters, they can be raised with environmental health or the HMO licensing office. Then concerns have been raised in relation to antisocial behaviour and the potential to disrupt the local area through noise. Again, this has been covered in other HMOs. The landlord has a responsibility to have a robust management plan and procedures in place to ensure the occupants do not cause any unreasonable noise or disturbance. Again, any issues can be dealt with through HMO licenses and conditions or environmental health should there be any noise complaints. And then they've raised concerns in relation to conflict with planning policies. In terms of this application, this has already been set out within the report to members. The change of use will bring the number of HMOs on the street to 7.1%, which will comply with all the relevant policies, which relate to HMOs, including How 4, 13 and 14. And officers would recommend approval with the attached conditions.
Thank you, Kieran. Okay, members, as I indicated before, Kieran, there are no speakers. So does anybody have any questions for Kieran or any of our officer team in front of you? No. Okay, members, well, there's a recommendation here from the planning department, recommendation for approval. So I'll take any proposals in relation to this one. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Kieran, for the report. And like again, it's almost Tony. At the risk of repeating myself, there's a huge need for HMOs, and they need to be managed properly. And as outlined in the report, this particular street, there's currently no approved HMOs, and this is in line with our policy. This is the exact type of development that we want to see. We want to see HMOs spread out. We want to see the provision expanded and expanded in a managed way, in a more fair and equitable way. And this application certainly adds to that and sends it, points us in the right direction. So I have no issues proposing that we accept the officer's recommendation and approve.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I would concur. Anybody like to second that? Councillor Fleming. Okay. Proposal from Councillor Jackson to approve, seconded by Councillor Fleming. We'll move it straight to vote.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Members, this is the vote for LA 11 2025-0171F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Abstain, Suzanne.
Alderman Neary McMorris.
Abstain, Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Abstain, Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Sean Fleming. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For, Suzanne.
And Councillor Lillian C. Bar. Oh, thank you.
It's 11 for, 3 abstentions. So the recommendation to approve has obviously gone through. So we will now move to the next item on the list for decision, which is item number 5 in your packs. It's LA 11 2024-0722F. There are again no speakers looking to address the committee. However, Kieran, you're back on for this one as well. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. This is item 5, LA 11 2024-0722, and this is for the retention of a rear dormer window and the change of use from a house of a single family use to a house of multiple occupation, with associated internal alterations and the locations at 6 Montjoy Street, and the recommendation is to approve. Again, we just have the site plan here showing the property itself outlined in red. And this is a picture of the front elevation of the property. Again, then we have the existing layout shown here, which is living room, dining room on the bottom floor, and then we have bedrooms 1, 2, 3, and on the upper floors for the existing layout. And then in terms of the proposed layout, then we have again living room, dining room, and kitchen on the lower floor. We have bedroom 1 and 2 on the first floor, and then on the second floor, sorry, we have bedroom 3 and 4. And again, then this is just the front elevation, then the rear elevation, which shows the dormer window proposed as part of the application in place. In terms of policy context, again, we have the regional development strategy, their area plan maps only, and then the Derry City and Strabane District Council local development plan. Again, this policies GD Pol 1 and 2 apply, TAM 9 for car parking, and policies HOW 4, 13 and 14 in relation to the HMO use, HOW 10, which relates to the dormer window extension, and policy HE1, which relates to archaeological remains of regional and local importance. In terms of consultation, Environmental Health have provided no objection, and Historic Environment Division have provided no objection. Then just in terms of the main policies then for considering a HMO, we have policies HOW 4, 13 and 14 in relation to HOW 4. The proposal will not alter the status of the property as a dwelling, and it will retain the property for permanent occupation, so it complies with the requirements of HOW 4. In terms of then HOW 13, during the transitional period, the council will not allow any more than 30% of the housing in the street to be granted for further HMO development. Of the 27 properties on Montjoy Street at the minute, there are currently no HMOs. If approved, this application would take the total in there 84%, which complies with the requirements of HOW 13. In terms of policy HOW 14 then, the proposal is for a 4-bedroom HMO, which does not exceed the 4-bedroom threshold, so that this part of the policy is satisfied. Again, the gross internal floor space, this would only be applicable for a flat conversion. This doesn't apply in this instance. In terms of the internal layout of the property, it'll have a living room, dining room, kitchen, and 4 bedrooms and 2 shower rooms. So the third criteria is met. And then in terms of the fourth criteria, it's the property itself has been changed to HMO. There's no part of it in the rear, and it has access to the public streets. So that meets the fourth criteria. And again, in terms of the fifth criteria, the proposal would take the number of HMOs on Montjoy Street to 4%. It is therefore considered the proposal would not detract from the established residential character of the area, which meets the fifth criteria. In terms of transport, moving and parking, we have then policies TAM 9 and criteria X of GD Pol 1. The proposal is for a 4-bed HMO, which would have a parking requirement of 2 spaces, which is the same as the existing dwelling. Therefore, the proposal in front of us today complies with TAM 9 and GD Pol 1. And then in terms of the extension, which is the dormer window on the roof, again, this has been assessed and it complies with the criteria within HOW 10. There are no issues in terms of loss of light amenity or scale, form and massing with this part of the proposal. Other matters were considered again are design, amenity, human health and wellbeing, natural environment, built heritage, flood risk, main sewage services, renewable low carbon technology, which the proposal has been found to comply with as set out in the report. And then in terms of this application, there have been representations received with 2 petitions containing 60 signatures. And I'll just go through, they've been set out within the report in front of members, and I'll just go through just some of the. Yeah. All right. I just go through some of the objections and just summarise the issues raised. The objections they have raised concerns in relation to neighbour notification. Council are content that neighbour notification has been carried out in accordance with the statutory requirements, so there's no issue there. They've raised concerns in relation to parking within the area, and again, the proposal complies with TAM 9 as the proposed use as a HMO would have a requirement for 2 parking spaces, which is the same as the existing property. The property as well, due to its location, would have access to high levels of public transport, so officers would have no concern in relation to that. Noise and disturbance has been raised, and again, it's covered in previous presentations. It's the landlord's responsibility in this case to ensure there are robust management procedures in place to ensure the occupants do not cause unreasonable disturbance. Any matters, if they do occur, can be dealt with under separate HMO licensing, or they can be reported to environmental health if there are any noise complaints. Waste has been raised as an issue with the proposal. Again, the storage and disposal of waste will be as that as the dwelling, with regular refuge collections in the area, which should stop any sort of buildup of waste. And again, any issues that do arise, these can be raised with environmental health or the HMO licensing office, because again, it would be up to the landlord to ensure there are robust measures in place and agreements with the residents to ensure there's no buildup of waste at the site. There have been concerns raised in relation to intensification of HMOs in the area. As already covered in the report, there are currently no HMOs registered or approved within Mountjoy Terrace. No further evidence has been provided in relation to the change of use of any other buildings within the street for HMOs. The council are satisfied that the proposal complies with the relevant policies. The unsuitability of the property has been raised. Again, as assessed through the planning, the report in front of members, the proposal meets the requirements of relevant policies. When implementing the use then as a HMO, the owner will also have to ensure compliance with HMO licensing requirements, which will potentially have additional requirements for them to engage with, but they'll not get their license until that has been met. Moral implications has been raised, and again, this is not a planning consideration. As covered already in the report, the proposals for a HMO, which is the first HMO in the street, and it meets the policy requirements. Landlords bringing in short-term emergency lets. Again, this issue has been raised, but in terms of occupancy of the dwelling, council wouldn't have the powers to control who occupies the dwelling. We're strictly looking at the use, and in terms of the policies, how many bedrooms proposed, which is, again, this is 4 bedroom and complies with the policies relevant to the proposed use. Lack of engagement and communication from planning and council in relation to HMOs in general, and the objectors would like to stop HMOs in the area until there's clarification of how many there are. Again, the current application has been advertised in the local press and statutory name notification procedures, allowing members of the public to object or submit representations for assessment in relation to the proposal. As covered in the report, the proposal meets House 4, 13 and 14, with the site or the proposal itself being the first HMO on Mountjoy Street. Therefore, it complies with the policies required. And then there has been a late objection or item received in relation to it, and there's probably 3 main points in it. They have raised the issue of a HMO proposal in Bennett Street, which is close by, and they would like this to be included in the calculation for the number of HMOs in the area. As far as policy House 13 goes at the minute, we have to look at the street that is proposed on in terms of our calculation, so we cannot take other streets in the area at this minute and they account for calculating that. They talk then about renovation of other dwellings in the street. Again, as this is renovation of dwellings in the street, the council cannot control other dwellings being renovated if they're being renovated and used as dwellings themselves, so that we would have no control there. And then they have raised that the application close by in Upper Bennett Street would be preferable to this one for use as a HMO. But in terms of this application in front of the committee today, we can only consider this application. Should the Upper Bennett Street application come through to members later, if there's objections or issues with it, again, that can be considered on its own merits. But in terms of the application today, we have to consider Mountjoy Street and the number of HMOs on Mountjoy Street when we're calculating the percentages. So officers would recommend approval on this application with the proposed conditions attached.
Thank you, Kieran. All right, members, again, no speakers. So recommendation in front of us here for this one is again a recommendation to approve. I'll take any questions for Kieran or proposals if nobody has any questions in relation to it. Mr. Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just almost very similar to the last item and for the same reasons. Happy to propose to accept officer's recommendation.
Okay, so recommendation to approve proposed by Councillor Jackson. Is there a seconder for that?
Chair, Tricia Loke here. I thought I had my hand raised there, but I'd second it.
I don't see your hand, but go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Loke.
I'll second that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. So that's proposed by Councillor Jackson and seconded by Councillor Logue. We'll put it straight to the vote.
Thanks, Chair. So this is a proposal for a vote for LA 11 2024 0722F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll abstain, Suzanne.
Alderman Neri McMorris.
Abstain.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Abstain, Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Yeah.
Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Da.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Da.
Councillor Fergal Leonard. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For, Suzanne.
And Councillor Lillian Sina Barr.
For.
Okay. Okay, members, that proposal is carried. That was 11-4 and 3 abstentions. Moving to the last item for decision, which obviously we have taken item 6 out of today's agenda. So we'll move to item 7, which is LA 11 2024 /0744F. And Kieran, one more time.
Thank you, Chair. This is item 7, LA 11 2024 0744F, and this is for change use from a single family dwelling to a house in multiple occupation with minor internal operations, and the application itself is located at 2 Marlborough Terrace with a recommendation to approve. Again, we have the site location plan and the property itself outlined in red. And again, then this is just the front elevation of the property along Marlborough Terrace. We have the existing and proposed layout, which again is living room, dining room, kitchen on the lower floor, bedrooms 1 and 2 and a bathroom on the next floor, and then we have bedrooms 3, 4 and 5 in the upper floors. The proposed layout aims to keep the bottom floor the same. Then the first floor will have bedrooms 1 and 2 and a bathroom and WC, and then the upper floor will have bedrooms 4 and 3 with the home office in and the rear return. In terms of policy, again, we have the regional development strategy for Northern Ireland, their area plan, maps only, and then the Derry City and Strabane District Council local development plan strategy. Again, GD Poll 1 and 2 applied to this, TAM 9 for car parking, and policies how 4, 13 and 14 in relation to houses in multiple occupation. Environmental health provided comments just in relation to air quality in this one, and noise in relation to hot food licensed premises close by with informatives, but no objection to it, and there's been no representations received in relation to the proposal. In terms then of the HMO policies, again, we have how 4, which the proposal complies with as a proposal of approval, will not alter the status of the property as a dwelling and will retain the property for permanent occupation. Then we have how 13, which during the transitional period, the council will not allow more than 30% of the housing in the street to be granted for further HMO development. Of the 25 properties on Marlborough Street at present, there are currently 4 HMOs, which equates to 16%. If this application was approved, it would take the total in the street itself to 20%, which complies with the requirements of how 13. In terms of policy how 14, the proposal is for a 4-bedroom HMO, which does not exceed the 4-bedroom threshold, which satisfies this policy. Again, the gross internal floor space does not apply to this one because it's not a flat. In terms of the internal layout of the property, it has a living room, dining room, kitchen and 4 bedrooms, shower room, bathroom, and the HMO is a self-contained unit. In terms of the property, so the 3rd criteria is met, and then in terms of the 4th criteria, no part of the HMO is to the rear of the property without access to public streets, so the 4th criteria is met. And then in terms of criteria 5, the proposal would take the number of HMOs in Marlborough Terrace to 20%. That is therefore considered would not detract from the established residential character of the area, so the 5th criteria is met. Then just in terms of transport and movement, we have TAM 9 and criteria X of GD Poll 1 applicable in this instance. In terms of this, the proposal meets the requirements of TAM 9 as the parking requirement for the 4-bed HMO will be 2 spaces, which would be no greater than the existing use as a 5-bedroom dwelling, therefore will cause no road safety or parking issues. In terms of other matters considered in or planning matters considered, again, we have design, amenity, human health and well-being, natural environment, built heritage, flood risk, main sewage services, and renewable and low carbon energy technology, which have all been considered in the report, and there's been found to be no issue. The proposal complies with those requirements. As covered, there's been no representations or objections to this one, so officers would recommend approval with the conditions attached.
Thank you, Kieran. Okay, members, so recommendation in front of us is for an approval. And again, if nobody's got any questions, I will take proposals from the floor. Anybody? Councillor Sino Bar, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as per our council corporate position on HMOs, and in this case, it's recommended for approval, but it exists the threshold of 10%. So I wish to propose that we overturn the officer's proposal and vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Sino Bar. Is there a supporter for this one, as in terms of a seconder for the proposal?
I'll second it.
We
I'll
have.
second it, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Thank you very much. So proposal to not accept a recommendation from the Planning Department from Councillor Sino Bar and seconded by Councillor Logue. We'll put it straight to the vote.
Members, this is the vote for LA 11 2024-0744F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll just abstain again, Suzanne. Thank you.
Alderman Neri McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For, Suzanne.
Alderman Councillor John Boyle.
There'll be an alderman, but I'll take Councillor for.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Ta.
Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Ta.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Yep.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Yeah.
Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For, Chair.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For, Suzanne.
And Councillor Lillian Sinai Barr. For.
Okay, that's proposals carried at 13 for and 1 abstention this time. Okay, members, so we'll move along swiftly to item number 8, which is bizarrely enough a consultation on the DFA transboundary EIA consultation. I say bizarre because it's like way off the coast from Dublin and Wicklow, but Andre might have something to explain to us in relation to that. So Andre, whenever you're ready.
Members, yeah, the purpose of the paper is just to advise that we have received, the council has received a consultation from the Strategic Planning Division, DFI, and it's to do with a consultation that they have received from Ambor Planella about an offshore wind farm off the coast of Dublin and County Wicklow. And it's just whether or not we consider that there will be any environmental effects, significant environmental effects on this council area from that development. And given the significant distance from the proposed development, which is located off the coastline of Dublin, about 10 kilometres, we propose that we would write back and say that we don't consider there will be significant effects for this council area. It's a very significant offshore development.
Okay, Councillor Gallagher.
Chair, look at this. It mightn't have a negative impact, but it might have a positive impact in this area. And where I say that is there would be a perception County Tyrone would have a saturation of windmills. And there's other windmills in planning process that a lot of local people have been raising a lot of objections around the environmental impact, living impact and all that goes with that. So I think that the more direction that goes to offshore, it might alleviate a lot of the burden that County Tyrone in itself seems to be carrying in great depth. So I think that we might consult and say this might have a positive contribution to our local environment. Thank you, Chair.
Well, that's a fair point. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I would concur. The potential for offshore wind is huge. Particularly for an island of our size, and we've no shortage of wind. There's a potential for us to be self-sufficient when it comes to energy. Chair, you all know yourself around the exploratory work that's carrying out off the coast of Malin that could be hugely significant for our council area. We want to see that accelerated, and we want to see the exploration accelerated. There's another exciting development off the coast of Belfast. So there's, in terms of the island as a whole and an energy strategy, offshore wind needs to have a major factor. We do have the added complication of needing permission from a Crown estate, but that's something that those responsible are working through, and I believe that applies right across the board. So, but the potential around offshore wind is tremendous. So, this is obviously a one that's further advanced, given the energy capacity issues that Dublin's experiencing. It's understandable that we're going to see those projects coming forward quicker, but we need to see the plans accelerated in other parts of the island, and particularly here in the northwest, where there's certainly no shortage of wind. So there's huge potential in that regard. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, so I think the response might reflect some of that then, Andre. I do agree as well. I have to say there's enormous potential when you start using one per out at sea, and you do see very good examples of it all over the world, in fact, so why wouldn't Ireland naturally enough use a resource that sometimes we actually get far too much of, but that's by the by. So is everybody content that would form part of the response? Yeah. Okay. All right, members, moving along now, items 9, 10 and 11. Yeah, so are you proposing that as a response, Councillor Gallagher, and you'll second that, Councillor Jackson? Yeah, okay. Everybody content now? Just keeping ourselves right there. Okay, open for information 9, 10, and 11. Members, anybody got any thoughts or comments that they want to make on those? Okay, dokes. Who we got?
Chair, I just raised my hand there, Chair, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Logan.
Yeah, just on the minister's letter there, and that it more or less it's obviously that we have the remit, or we have the power, and it is our remit to set policies regarding HMOs. As does the point, and I suppose at the lack of progress of our to develop our local policies plan. Therefore, I am proposing to make a change to the interim position under Housing 13 from 30 to 10%, and it would, as a report, be brought on that as well, Chair. And can I also say that, while there is mechanisms for communities and residents to raise concerns about HMOs, we certainly feel that, they're not being done robustly enough, and would certainly want the get a report from, I suppose, the Belfast HMO office, but we would want to be more informed of exactly what goes on when complaints are raised, especially in our council district. But we certainly feel that presently that the measures that can be taken are not being carried out to what they can do. So I'm reporting that to you as well. Thank you.
City solicitors informed me that they are happy, of course, to bring a paper to next plan committee.
Next plan is start of January, certainly February at the latest.
February at the latest, hopefully January, Councillor Logue, in relation to that. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Councillor Harkin, you've indicated you'd like to come in.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, look, I think that the Minister Lyons hasn't had a very positive impact on most of the things that he's touched on. And I think his reasons for even intervening in the discussion around HMOs were to do more with dog whistle style politics that his party seems to be pursuing at the minute. And kind of scapegoating of asylum seekers. And I think he's played a very damaging role there. But nevertheless, this letter in regard to HMO policy is something that I think that we as a council can utilise to strengthen the regulations that we want to put in place to protect residential areas in particular. So I'm not a committee member, but I very much support Councillor Logue's proposal that we use this encouragement for the minister to change our LDP from 30% to 10% for as an HMO cap. And obviously, council officers are welcome to carry out a paper, but I think we've got a lot of work done on this already. And it seems to me that the 30% limit from some of the proposals that have come into the planning committee, there's already an attempt to utilise gaps that may exist at the planning appeals committee as well. And so I think we have to take that on board too. There's all sorts of efforts to find loopholes and undermine the work that the council has done. So I think that this is, we can utilise this directive for positive purposes. And I think that I think Councillor Heaney described 10% as our corporate position. I think that we should get that now built into the LDP as soon as possible so that it becomes that is the regulation and that is what planning applications have to contend with. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Logue obviously made that proposal for a paper, and Councillor Heaney has seconded that proposal, members. So are you all content that that is the direction of travel? Yeah, okay. Any of the rest of the open for information that anybody wants to address today? If not, we will close the meeting. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and thanks to our officer team as well, and wish everybody a safe journey home. Thanks.